Oh, where to start? I mean, that last question from Ed Davey was a reminder of just how powerful Parliament can be and how important PMQs can and should be, of course, with reference not only to that unfolding scandal involving alleged embezzlement from a care home, but also the understanding of the issue that he has as the father of a disabled son. But we must begin at the beginning with Kemi Badenoch, who, well, I don't know. Where do you start? If you stuck her on a lie detector test, it's the only redeeming feature of PMQs at the moment is how magnificently hilarious she is. If you put her on a lie detector test and said, are you the best politician ever in the history of the world? I think she would reply yes and pass the test. There are levels of self-belief there that are, frankly, utterly magnificent to watch. Utterly magnificent to watch. But anyway, how much of your predictions were right? You didn't mention student loans. I bet you're about to tell me you were about to.
I said tuition fees as we got
Of course you did.
off.
Rewind live radio on the Global Player app. She did, actually. It's true. So this is clever politics. I mean, you know, it was a system brought in under the last government, but tweaked, of course, by Rachel Reeves with the freezing of thresholds for Plan 2 graduates. It's very dry. She kind of got handed her homework by Martin Lewis live on the television earlier this week, but of course, because of that thing I just referred to, that magnificent self-belief, she wouldn't even have been troubled by the money-saving expert telling her that she'd got her facts a bit wrong, because it's good politics. She's managed to staple herself to widespread and long-running calls for a rejig of the rejig.
I think that's right. And I think, to be slightly fair to her, I feel like to be the leader of any party, or indeed probably to be a politician, you've got to have buckets worth of self-belief, don't you? I mean, she possibly does have more than others, but you really have got to believe in yourself if you're going to...
I think, do you know what? It's really working. You know, when she looks in the mirror and says, you are a strong and powerful woman, because they found the notes. It's really working. They should find out what self-help book she got that from and stick it on the cover. They'd sell millions of copies in a hot minute. So student loans is an interesting thing to go in on, and it is good territory for her, albeit that she didn't necessarily make as much of it as she could have done. It's a Martin Lewis campaign, this, which she has belatedly attached herself to and managed to get told off by Martin Lewis for not understanding the facts properly.
But also, why not? You know, if you're in opposition, why not come up with ideas that you might not necessarily actually ever have to pay for? So she said at the weekend that Plan 2 loans were increasingly feeling like a scam, and she said that the Conservative Party would cut the rate of interest charged on some student loans issued in the decade up to 2023. Of course, as you say, these were brought in by the coalition. But it is good politics because loads of people agree with her, not just graduates who are facing those costs, but also people on the Labour benches. And actually, I think it was a reasonably good Prime Minister's questions for Kemi Badenoch. Apart from anything else, I always think it actually works. If you've got a good topic, just stick on it for 6 questions. And that is good. I would say the question she asked to start with, where she basically said, will Keir Starmer cut interest rates on the debt trap of student loans? She should have just stuck with that, actually, and just carried on asking the same question, because that's when we've seen Keir Starmer slightly fall apart on that, and actually it does elicit responses maybe on the second or third go. But the thing that makes this especially good politics for Kemi Badenoch is there are loads of people on the Labour benches that actually agree with her. And there is so much frustration, James, from people I've spoken to in Labour who say, why on earth are we saying, as Rachel Reeves saying, as she did to our colleague Natasha Clark, that this system is fair? This is not a system we brought in. This is not a system we voted for back when the coalition brought it in. And we've never agreed with it. Keir Starmer said when he was in opposition still that he was going to abolish tuition fees altogether. And they just are really confused as to where this has come from. I mean, where this has come from, right, is they don't really have any money to do things with it, or they aren't willing to prioritise this at the moment. There have been some reports that ministers are looking at doing something about this, but that's why this is really uncomfortable for them. We've had people like Lucy Powell telling us actually that this system is egregious.
I think I know.
You think you know? Yeah,
I'm being serious now. You can't tell from my face. I suspect that they're on a very, very strong message to not undo anything that is currently in place. So this stems back to Rachel Reeves freezing the salary threshold for the Plan 2 loans, and I imagine that in the last 2 weeks it's become written in stone that we're not going to backtrack or U-turn or revise or whatever you prefer to call it on anything else. Therefore, we have to defend where we are now on student loans. Rachel Reeves would be reading the tablets written in stone and deciding that is the, I don't know, entirely speculative, but I've had a few successes in the past trying to work this stuff out. A few people unhappy with the idea that was good, because the comments that she made about the Pedo Defenders Party read like something she was reading off a graffiti in a pub toilet. What on earth was that about? Do we know?
It was pretty strange, wasn't it? I mean, so she basically... Keir Starmer said your party's getting smaller, pointed at Reform UK. Good gag, actually.
True.
Also, well, good gag, because actually it is true. And then she said, well, Labour's getting smaller too, and says one Labour MP is left because he was arrested on child sex offences. It's no wonder some Labour say that they are described as the Pedo Protection Party. Now, in a parliamentary Labour Party meeting, Women's PLP, where Keir Starmer spoke, that was a couple of weeks ago. Actually, to the day, it was a couple of weeks ago. One MP did say that a female MP did say that they were getting this on the doorstep. And actually, I've spoken to people who have said, actually, earlier today, someone said they were door knocking in Doncaster and said, someone only said we were the pedo protecting party once. So I think that is occasionally coming up on the doorstep.
Based on what?
Well, I think on appointing Peter Mandelson,
right?
Of course,
so on the Epstein stuff,
Jeffrey
right?
Epstein, that's right. But on the who is that MP that Kemi Badenoch was talking about, I think that was Dan Norris, who's a former Labour minister. He was arrested at back end of 2024 on suspicion of rape, sexual assault, voyeurism, and upskirting. He denies those allegations, but as soon as he was initially arrested, he was removed from the Labour Party. Immediately. Just on
arrest. And I think the police have said they're no longer investigating the allegations of child sexual offences, but are investigating the other allegations that you mentioned. So a very strange. I mean, it obviously plays well on Twitter, I presume. Otherwise, Badenoch wouldn't have used that phrase in the way that she did.
I think that's probably right. It's so difficult, isn't it, when you watch the comments at the moment and then you think, oh, hang on, have they said that just because they want to clip that up and put that on social media where they know it will do well, as opposed to actually having the debates that have sometimes happened in the past? And I think, James, you were right. That was probably one of those moments.
I thought that was hideous, actually. And I mean, I was preparing to say that's good for Badenoch. She's doing really well on this. It's cynical. She stapled herself to somebody else's campaign, but it's a good thing to be stapled to. And then that just came out of nowhere, that line, and it is absolutely hideous. I mean, it's disgusting. Keir Starmer, as Director of Public Prosecutions, pursued more prosecutions in that field than I think any of his predecessors. It's just so at odds, but I imagine, I don't even look at it anymore, but I imagine it's the kind of thing she thinks will play well in the sewer that Twitter has become since Elon Musk took over. And then Davey on Russia, which is becoming something of a hobby horse for him. And I don't mean that in a negative way. We talked on the programme yesterday about our failure to be fully cognizant of the threat that Russia is posing to the West. The head of MI6, the head of the army, all queuing up, and yet absent almost every week from PMQs until Ed Davey gets to his feet.
Yeah, so Ed Davey talking about Gordon Brown there, and how Gordon Brown had highlighted Jeffrey Epstein using UK airports to traffic women, and asked whether Keir Starmer...
Did he not talk about Russia? Did I imagine that? Good Lord, I've got to start paying more attention, haven't I? Just so talking about the Gordon Brown's detective work into the...
Indeed, and whether or not there should
stuff.
Be a public inquiry, and asked if Keir Starmer thought there should be a public inquiry, which of course he batted back, and whether Starmer agrees that the flight logs should be released. Starmer said there's a public inquiry going on. And then of course he did talk about that horrible, awful case of the care home, the William Blake House, which is for adults with profound disabilities, which currently faces closure. And he says the families involved have put forward a rescue plan and asked if the Prime Minister would back that. The Prime Minister saying he will organise a meeting on this.
A quick introduction for Idiot's Corner. I've got like 10 messages in front of me saying racism, misogyny against Kemi is truly shocking, and then you look at it and it's all from the same number. But unfortunately, you sent it before we'd started analysing PMQs. You sent it about 20 times, mate. But the first time you sent it, she was still talking, so nobody had even started critiquing what she'd said. So accusing the people critiquing what she said of racism and misogyny only works as a lie if you wait until the people have actually started critiquing her. So it's Idiot's Corner for you freak.